Welcome back to 7997 with Chris and Jackie, your hosts, who are two black immigrants living our best life in Mexico.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
No.
So we're no longer immigrants.
No.
Former immigrants, ex-immigrants, no longer in Mexico.
No.
As you'll see from the footage, we are in the middle of Snowpocalypse 2026.
Happy New Year. America, Happy New Year.
We are in Ohio, of all places, and you may wonder, what in the world are y'all doing in Ohio? Why did y'all leave Mexico? We're going to answer those questions today.
Mm-hmm. And the funny thing is, it's not even like rocket science. I think these are the main reasons why people go back to their home country. Do the intro, do the music, and then we'll talk about it.
Oh, there's no music. We're not going to do music.
No music?
No music. The music is all like Mexican themed, and it doesn't really fit anymore, does it? What's the Ohio
change
thing? Is it like bluegrass or something?
No, wait, time out. I just found out that the funk is here. You gotta make something funky for Ohio.
That's true.
You better make it funky, brother. What? Okay.
So we'll do some Ohio Players style.
It gotta have a stank on it.
But yeah, I think the big answers as to why we are back in America
is money and family.
Why
people
we left in the first place.
Right.
It's money.
Yeah.
Not the only answer, but the biggest answer is it's money.
Is money, yeah.
If you've been around since sort of the beginning of what we've been doing, you know that, I took a pay cut to go to Mexico.
Unwittingly?
Unplanned.
All of the uns.
Witted of it after we've been here for a year. And then they were like, oh, well, we're not going to actually keep your pay the same.
Yeah.
So there's that, which would have been okay. Mm-hmm. But you also could not take your job with you when you went. So you had to rethink, how are you going to make money while in Mexico?
Do contract work,
side hustles, whatever it takes.
Right.
All that didn't necessarily go as planned either. Mm-hmm. You guys been around, you saw, the parties and the brunches and all the things we did within the space that we had. Mm-hmm. So, we were trying to work it out and get it together, but just got to the point where it was unsustainable.
Mm-hmm. And plus there was seasonality.
Yeah.
Especially for us there in San Miguel.
Yeah.
It was seasonality because it's such a tourist destination. And because it's also a tourist destination, those tourists, i.e. snowbirds, they leave, right? So you have the lack of tourism, and then you also have at the same time the flight of snowbirds going back.
Right.
So it made it a very dry existence for if you do have that side hustle.
Right.
You don't have those influxes of customers.
Even if you have a main hustle, like the businesses that are there, you'll see a lot of businesses turn over in San Miguel because it's hard to kind of maintain during the slow season. The busy season for San Miguel, it's a historical city. People come down
during the winter times. Like right now, the hustle is real now.
Right. So like all the holidays that surround Christmas in Mexico, there's a million holidays surrounding Christmas. So people are coming. Independence Day is in September.
October. Yeah.
So it's all these holidays that kind of run through the fall and the winter season. So that's when all the locals from Mexico kind of come into San Miguel, and then the snowbirds come down because they're trying to escape. The snow that we're in right now.
The foot of frozen water.
To get some warmth. So even businesses that have been there for quite some time have that same struggle of, the on season and the off season. How do you kind of survive through that time? And, it's a tough thing to do.
Yeah. Very challenging.
So we had to kind of get up and get out.
It wasn't under duress. It was actually, it was exciting. It was like, oh, okay, talking to, one of my compadres there. And, she's like, hey, this is what we're doing in Ohio. We have a summer program and this is how much it was paying. And it was like, go back home for a few weeks because this was June. So let's just say June and July. So for 8 weeks, 2 months. Go and make, some good USD, and then boom, because that translates to so much more when you're in Mexico.
Yeah.
And to put into the pot because your boy won't let me just retire because we couldn't. It wasn't even feasible, but
I don't know why
would be
we're
nice.
acting like I'm not letting you do something.
It would still just be nice for you.
The budget will not let you retire.
That part, right?
Yeah.
But anywho, you know, so it's like, okay, cool. Go, you know, squirrel away some monies or whatever, like a little squirrel, you know, to stuff some in your pockets, and then bring your behind back home to Mexico.
Which is what, you know, Mexican immigrants have been doing for decades.
That part.
Going to the U.S., make
That's
a little bit
right.
of money, send it back home.
That's right.
So that was sort of the initial plan. As you got there, you're like, hey, I got some opportunities. I actually like this job. It's something I want to do. And as we're kind of seeing, like, the opportunities for you to make money in Mexico are slim, and our budget requires that we have 2 salaries, it doesn't make sense for you to be in the U.S. making money and then me to be in Mexico making money and paying 2 rents and, like, us being apart.
He missed me.
You missed me, too. But I missed you more. So how about that?
You did. No, we missed each other.
Yeah. So having us be in 2 separate places as we're trying to be obviously a couple and be together and move forward together, we kind of need to make that happen. So we put a plan in motion to shut down things in Mexico, which at the time we had 2 spots. We had this place we were living, and then we had the collective space.
Yeah.
At the same time, the person who hired you was actually in the collective space as well, but she's spending most of her time in the U.S.
Right.
And then at the same time, my mother, who's also in the collective space,
is
my
spending her time
got
at
sick,
the hospital.
really sick. Had to get flown back to Houston, Texas, and you saw our last video, you see that story, to get open heart surgery.
Yeah.
So they had to get up and leave Mexico as well.
Yo,
for completely different reasons.
A lot of plate spinning.
Which brings up the point of, like, you can be prepared to go to Mexico. You can have all your ducks in a row. You can understand what it means and what it takes to live in another country. You can learn your Spanish. You can love the food. You can do all the things you want to do. But there's always going to be something pulling you back to the U.S. And you may be able to overcome it. You may have thought ahead about it, or you may not have.
Or have the resources to circumnavigate, you know, go around or go over, go under it, you know. Yeah. But if you don't have those resources, then you have to go to where the resources are.
Right. And for some people, they may not even be able to afford to go back. So like, you may be stuck in a position where I need to go back to the U.S., but I can't even afford to do that anymore because of, you know, how whatever choices you may have made to get into Mexico.
Yeah. Or friends in high places who are bombing places. There are Americans who are stuck in the Caribbean from just going on vacation during the holidays. Yeah. So sometimes it's not even our choices and things that we're doing. Yeah. It literally could just be outside forces that are putting you in a situation where you're stuck like Chuck. Yeah. That's scary.
I think that's one of the frustrating things is, like, when you're thinking about moving abroad, you're doing and making choices to be in control of your life and where you want to be.
But then
you realize you're not always in as control as maybe you might want to.
Right.
You might be running your own business, and that business may, you know, have some issue, and you have to kind of get up and roll.
Or like we even had chef friends that we met, you know, when we were in Mexico, and it's like, I do this kind of cuisine, but we don't even take into consideration, hey, can I resource those products? You know, like the vegan chef, you know, our friend Miss Regina in Chicago. So it's like, yikes, I thought I would just, you know, we just have this, it's just whatever our our infrastructure. We're just used to our infrastructure. And so we're just like, okay, cool, I can go shopping here, or I can order this, and it's like, shop what? Nope, you're gonna have to make do, you know, or you can't even order, or if you do, you gotta pay extra fees on top of it. So now your product and services are more expensive, and don't nobody want to pay all that because they're in Mexico. So now they just think everything is cheap. But sorry, but that's the way it is. Yeah, that's the way it is, right? But then just to circle back to what you were saying, how our father-in-law, you know, he got sick. So it's like, it's not that they don't have good care. It's just that, and this is nothing even about a country. Even here in the States, there are people who get sick, let's just say here in Ohio, but the best level of care for them is in New York, or is in like St. Jude's, is in Memphis. So if I had a child that got sick, we heading down to Memphis. You know what I mean? So it's not about the country lacking. It's what resource do you need, and can I get to it?
Is it available where you
Is it available where I live?
Yeah.
You know. And it's not all gloom and doom, right? Because the baby and family, it's exciting.
Right. So like there was a lot of things, not only just a deficit of funds and the budget not working with the situation we were in, but there's also things pulling you back, i.e. we have a brand new grandbaby.
Who is so precious. He has 4 teeth. Maybe we could get Chris to put a picture of him up.
I can insert something in this area for sure.
He's so precious. Okay, go ahead.
But yeah, that's our first grandbaby, so that's something we want to be obviously as close as possible to. His mother has family, 2 hours from where we are now, so like that's convenient so that when they're in town, they can kind of see both sides of the family at the same time. And trying to watch a child grow up from another country isn't necessarily that fun of an experience as the grandparent. And still we're far away from them now.
Yeah,
but just
being in another state,
closer.
right. At least we could jump on Amtrak if we, just for giggles or whatever.
So there's also that draw. And I think, this kind of leads us to the question of, okay, we come back to the U.S., but where do we kind of choose where to live? There's a lot of factors that go into that.
Right.
Money being the biggest one, because everywhere in the U.S. is expensive right now. But there are some places, i.e. Ohio, which are a little bit less expensive, still have a lot of good amenities. It's not New York City by any means. It's not, cultural hub in a lot of ways.
But I think that's too high of a standard anyway.
Right.
New York is New York. New York is
if you want a New York experience, you have 5 cities in the world tops that are gonna get close to what you need.
Exactly.
And we're not in Tokyo or Hong Kong. So
correct. Chicago
or
LA, right? Miami kind of thing or whatever. So it's like those are really, really different standards. And I'm not even call it high or low.
Right.
Those are just way different standards. So at that part, it is what it is, right?
Because we were in Charlotte, North Carolina before we came to Mexico, and being in Ohio is not that off of Charlotte, North Carolina. There's just more snow, for the most part.
Right. It's definitely colder.
It's a very similar experience. It's suburban USA, and nowadays all that feels
correct. It's how you gonna compare Target, community, Target, so Chick-fil-A,
Target, Walmart, Chick-fil-A. You still get you an Einstein Brothers bagel. You can get you some Panera. All that same stuff is everywhere.
They pretty much are the same. And to us, it's about activities and culture. You know what I mean? And so it's like within driving distance, you can be in natural habitats, whether it's botanical gardens, beautiful parks, waterfalls and caverns or whatever. And then you also can be at a play, right? You turn around within reasonable driving. This is not even 5 hours away, even though Chicago is like 4.5 hours away. But reasonable distance, you could take in an NBA game. You can go to the 2 NFL teams literally within an hour, right? It's 2
within an hour, and then Cleveland's 4. Because we're in Dayton, so we have Columbus is close by with Ohio State. And there's a lot of cultural going there.
Look, let me tell you about the Midwest. What? They love their college.
Sports.
What? So we're right in the college, the sports mecca, if you will, right? So there's all kinds of stuff to get into.
Cincinnati is an hour. Indianapolis is about an hour. Cleveland's about 4. Chicago's 5. I mean, you can get an hour flight to Chicago. It's up and it's back down. I think Kentucky is not too far away either. Was it Lexington?
Right down the road. And WNBA, Indianapolis. So for us, this is the kind of things that we look for. Like, are we gonna be bored? Because my husband ain't hitting the streets, but he will roll out for a weekend getaway or do a special event. And there's a ton of that, ton of those options. That are affordable, easy on the pockets. Oh, and my husband loves a good museum. So,
like, are there good museums around? Can I get good food that's not chain restaurant? Can I get, local ethnic food? Can I get, a good high-end restaurant or two? Can I go to, close cities that have all those things as well? So you have a whole bunch of options. And can I get good access to new technology? Like, I like the newest, medicine or the newest gadget or toy or something, and like being in Mexico, like Mexico isn't the first market that a lot of companies think about. So like, you know, I'm lactose intolerant. They have this new lactose intolerance pill out I can get, but I can't get it shipped to Mexico. Like, of all things to think about, right? Like, you want the new fresh medicine. I can't get it shipped to Mexico.
Now, a pair of J's you can get.
Right, you can get some J's in a lot of places. Real and fake, you can get plenty of J's. But like, if there's a new, you know, phone out or a new gadget or music instrument or something I want, like, Mexico usually isn't the first market. So like, if you want, you know, that kind of thing, being in the U.S. is an advantage to that as well. So there's just so many things that, you know, you do miss out when you leave the U.S. And being in Dayton in particular is just a little bit less expensive. You can't get a 3-bedroom house for $1,000 a month. You know, maybe you like the neighborhood, maybe you don't.
Right,
you know, maybe you feel uncomfortable around.
Now, don't be.
You don't
listen.
you know,
don't
be in that neighborhood.
Don't get fooled. We back.
Right.
Okay, we back. So the lower the rent, normally you ducking, dodging, stepping over stuff. So welcome home.
Yeah.
Welcome home. Being Venidos, Negroes.
But I mean, Dayton is a city where there's a lot of people fleeing that have fled the downtown area and went to the suburbs, and now they're trying to pull people into the downtown. So downtown is inexpensive, and it's being revitalized, and they're putting money into it. So like, being at the right place at the right time. You know, I was talking to my stepdad last night, and he's like, you know, when they were in Detroit for the first time, they were offering a lot of the same programs they offer in Dayton now. You know, homeowners assistance and tax abatements and things to kind of get people into the city. But now, you know, 10, 15 years later, all that stuff is gone. All the housing prices have now gone up, so it's more expensive.
Values,
So, you know, if you can kind of be in the right place at the right time, you can kind of get in, get, you know, some cheap housing, you know, a tax rebate, abatement, and be, you know, in 10 years, be able to, you know, flip your money on your house if you so desired 2 or 3 times what you paid for it. So, you know, there's opportunity in a way that maybe you don't get opportunity in a city like a Charlotte that's already kind of, you know, blown up, or, you know, DC or any of those other places that are just kind of already there. So, you know, being able to come back to this city and get a little bit of opportunity that you miss out in other places is kind of nice as well.
It is pretty cool. And it's a new region. We've never been in the Midwest.
That's true.
You know, this is actually our very first time being in Ohio. We'd never been here before.
Never been here, never been close to here?
Well, closest is Chicago, you know, for a few hours. I have family in Chicago. But other than that, you know, never been here. So we do enjoy, you know, learning new spaces and going new places and things like that. I know we're not impressed with having to get some new boots.
It is definitely different, because when I, you know, got off the plane, went from Querétaro to Chicago and then to Dayton. Just stepping off the plane in Chicago, and like, when you step across the threshold from the plane into the little tube that gets you up into the building, like, just that little crack of air that came through just like hit my soul.
The heart got you.
I didn't have a heavy coat on. I had a heavier coat on, the heaviest that I would have in Mexico, because it might get 40 degrees.
Right.
But once that cold air hit you, it's like, oh my goodness,
I am somewhere new.
I am not ready for whatever this is. So like, that's one of the first things I had to do here, was like, I gotta go shopping. I gotta get some heavier clothes. I gotta get some layers. I gotta get, you know, thicker socks, thermal hat, big puffy coat, so I can go outside. You know. So like, there's just an adjustment. And winter in Mexico is very different than winter in Ohio.
Oh, absolutely. You know. Oh, absolutely. And the thing, we haven't experienced this since since childhood. College.
I mean, we got a little bit of snow in Charlotte. It might be icy.
But
not like this amount of snow.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this is going to stick around until April. We haven't. It's been a very long time since we were in college, high school, college. You know what? 97. I remember the blizzard of 96. But we have a foot of snow right now, and we'll show y'all pictures of that right now. But we haven't experienced that in a long time.
It would have been maybe 01, 02?
Maybe.
I just remember having to walk 12 blocks back and forth to work in probably a foot of snow.
Really? When we was in Baltimore?
We were in Baltimore.
Really? Okay.
So I remember that being pretty bad.
But that's a long time ago, like 25 years ago. And so between then and now, we were in Charlotte with really, really mild winters. And then, of course, then you go from Charlotte to Mexico, you know. So yeah, we are definitely how you say it? We're spoiled.
Yeah.
We're spoiled. Yeah.
So, how would you say you are adjusting, enjoying, not enjoying living in Dayton, Ohio at this point?
Well, it's interesting. The funny thing is, the more you learn, the more you see, the more people you meet, and experiences that you have, the more you realize how it's all cyclical. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like the things that I was expecting to be my challenges aren't. Especially with the racial divide we have here in the country and stuff. Like you know when you're not welcome, or people will just straight up ignore you, but that's everywhere. That's anywhere, right?
Even like the Midwest has a reputation for being very friendly. Mm-hmm. So like even I understand the people who maybe are not happy because I'm black for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. They'll still give me a how you doing.
Yeah. This right.
In other places of the country, you're not even gonna get that. You might get a sneer or a look of disdain or whatever, but like they are just so friendly. Like I gotta at least
say hello,
acknowledge your existence.
Yeah.
Or head nod or something.
Right.
Whereas other people are just super duper friendly and will come out and
right.
Even if I feel that sort of tension for a second, within 5 minutes they turn their friendly on. And it's like I went to the doctor and the nurse kind of like I got weird vibe from the nurse, but we got in the room and she sat down. All of a sudden she's happy-go-lucky and nice and friendly.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay,
yeah,
it just kind of it warms you up and it makes you feel like you're welcome in a space just because people are trained in that area to be friendly to other people. And even if they don't like you, okay, I'm gonna put that in my pocket.
I can be professional.
And I can be professional and move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So definitely the kindness factor, I was not anticipating that. So pleasant surprise there. We're very snooty, believe it or not.
I'm not snooty.
You snooty.
I don't know what you're talking
from Moco. When you grow up, I think when we're talking about, I'm talking, but
from Montgomery County, Maryland, and we're actually in Montgomery County, Ohio.
That's so true.
So I think you need to respect the Moco. That's all I'm saying.
When you grow up in a really big town like DC, I think New York and places like that. This is just my experience, and I think you agree. When you grow up in a place like that, you think that other places are the country. Yeah. Because we thought that even about Charlotte. Right. And definitely, if anything past the Mason-Dixon line, you go on south, you're like, oh my God, that's the country. And so you just have a very low thought. You have a very negative connotation of where those other places are, what they have to offer, things of that nature. And so when I came, I was like, oh, it's not so bad. Oh, it's actually pretty cute. Look at all it being from DC coming to Dayton. It's all waterways, right? It's on rivers and creeks and things like that. So it's like all these bridges, and it reminds me of DC, how you could literally be in DC. Hop across this bridge, that bridge. There's a street and there's another bridge, and it's like, oh, it's cute. And it reminds me of home. And then, I was like, I haven't really found a really bad meal. Like, the food is all right.
Some meals are okay, and
right. Some are hitter, like if I had to go back, I would be okay. Yeah. I would order something different, probably, right? Yeah. Or I'd ask who's in the kitchen. Like, is Los back there? Oh no, okay. Yeah. But like the ethnic food, from my experience, if it's an ethnic restaurant, it's that ethnicity of people who are working there, and that's no shade on anybody else. I'm just saying that's like one of my favorite things. If you go to an Italian restaurant and there's an Italian back there, it's probably going to be authentic, and on and on and on. So here, there's Ethiopian, there's Chinese, there's Vietnamese food, all the things. It's like, oh, okay, there are communities of immigrants who are here. Thank the Lord it's peaceful right now. And they are serving up, their food and all that. And it's like, oh, it's pretty okay. It's pretty cool.
Even if it's not the best version of that food you ever had, it's at least,
authentic,
to
right?
A solid level of what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's not like you go into the Chinese place and it's, Catherine and, Jack in the back. And they're making, white rice and throw it in the pan with a dribble of soy sauce and throw it out and it's fried rice. Like they know what they're doing. Even when we were in Stryker, Ohio, which is like super duper rural, manufacturing city, farmland, Ohio. Like we went to a Chinese place and the food was
really good.
Like regular Chinese carry out food. It wasn't authentic. Straight from China, authentic for Americanized Chinese.
Exactly, and it was good.
Like surprisingly,
it was good.
So like even if you're in the middle of nowhere, sorry, Stryker.
Well, it's not
you understand
nowhere. It's in the middle of villages.
Yeah, it's technically a village.
It's a village.
A step up from like an incorporated area or something.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, the journey in Ohio so far. I always do my research before I come, so I have, a list of restaurants I want to go to or, shopping or whatever it is. And like for me, I love going thrifting. I like antiquing. I like that hunt of trying to find something individual and cool. Like there's a lot of that here.
A lot of thrifting.
Facebook Marketplace feels like the best thrift store in the world. You're just kind of swiping through and seeing stuff. And, there's just so many things if you like to spend money for no reason.
And the thrift stores are packed.
Yes.
Right?
Packed with people, packed with stuff. And they're all sort of different approaches to thrift stores too. Like there's your Goodwill and you have your set prices, but there's some that, everything is overpriced, but you get the right color that day and you get 50 to 75% off and you get a coupon. So, there's sort of just variety in the thrifting here and you're able to kind of get a lot of different things. So, there is an enjoyable experience here and it's not, feeling like I'm missing out on anything because I'm not in, a big city or a bigger city. I still have access to bigger cities if I want to go, for an hour drive. But there's a lot here to offer. Is it your perfect place? Depending on who you are and what you're looking for, and schools here aren't the greatest schools in the world. So if you're raising a family, maybe this is not the place you want to be. Maybe you want to go out towards the suburbs. So, that it all kind of depends on what your particular needs are. But
and it's also compared to what? Right? Because we left Baltimore City for better education for the boys. And we believe we found it.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And then we got there and the people in Charlotte complained about the school system.
Right.
But we're like, if you knew where we came from, right?
So you go from Baltimore City schools, there's probably no pathway for our oldest son to get to NYU. In Charlotte, there is a pathway for him to get to NYU. There's barely a pathway in Baltimore for you to get out of high school in one piece.
Right.
So like it's all,
it's relative, right?
Yeah.
So what I was going to say too was that we don't know what to compare it to. We can just hear the negative observations and opinions of those who are from here, and just take their word for it that it's a system that needs to be revamped or renewed, revitalized, whatever it needs. But there's never ever a perfect system anyway, right? So if you can't leave, of course, you try to make the best of it. But we don't really know what it is that they're plagued and challenged with. Because we don't have any kids in the system anymore.
There are a lot of charter and alternative schools here. So even if you don't like or they don't like their particular public school systems, like there are alternatives.
There are other options.
There's a lot of different options, and people are trying to, pull themselves up by their bootstraps or whatever nonsense you want to say. And like, we don't like what's going on, so let's kind of, put together our version of what we think good schooling is. So like, there's a lot of options for that as well. And that's probably, I'm sure, what had a lot of urban sprawl. What do you call it? Urban sprawl. What happens when they going back to the suburbs? You know what I mean? And I mean, literally, y'all, just within 10 minutes, east, west, north, south, you're in a totally different school district. And so I'm sure that has something to do with it, because you could tell as soon as you go into one area, it's like, wow, is striking differences, right? And all of those suburbs have their own school districts. And like that's one of the strengths of, I think, Dayton. Not only do you have, like, you're surrounded by other larger cities, your Columbus, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, but also just like downtown Dayton proper is surrounded by a lot of suburbs. So like, while you're in the city, there isn't necessarily a whole lot of Walmart and Target and shopping and stuff like that. 10 minutes down the road, you're in Kettering, or you're in Huber Heights, or you're in Centerville, or any of these other suburbs that have an overwhelming amount of shopping and retail and food. Like, I feel like Dayton is like the test ground. If you got a retail or restaurant concept, or if you want to try out the new version of Cheetos or Dr. Pepper with the blackberry in it or something, like, it goes to Ohio. Like, you find there's a certain, like, this is a testing ground for new retail and fatness.
Man, so, like, Beaver Creek, like, I took Chris to Beaver Creek. He was like, man, how many stores are out here? It's like a mall across the street from a shopping mall. It's all competitive.
It's like that scene from Friday when he's talking about the fat girl goes to the convention and gets the Twinkies with the sparkling, glitter inside the cream. Like, that's where they tested at in Ohio. Like, you walk into the grocery store, you'll see stuff you've never seen before.
You just never seen. Like, what in the Old Bay sausage? What? Wendy's makes bacon? I mean, it's just...
The Pepperidge Farm butter pecan chessmen.
It's his whole situation.
Yeah,
it's his whole situation. So, we don't need anything. You don't want for anything out here. But something y'all don't know, I don't know if we've ever talked about this. I love historic homes, and they have a plethora of them here. And if y'all can tell by the staircase, we're
you can see
in
a little touch of it in the back.
We're in one, and there are, and Dayton is full of them. The city proper is full of them. And that's obviously because of historical, things that went on. Turn of the century, you got Cincinnati, you have Cleveland and Detroit. These were hubs. These were really, really working hubs.
Midwest was manufacturing.
And they made a lot of money, and they built a lot of things for this country, and a lot of that wealth, were in these major city pockets, and being on the water and the train, on the railroad, all the things. But needless to say, there are a lot of historic homes here. But what's very cool is that many of them, though they may need updating, they're still turnkey. You still can live in them, but they're very affordable, like under $100,000.
And I think the sad part, and what I think they're trying to turn around, is the fact that you're in the city and you can go to certain blocks and there's like 3 or 4 of them that are just falling apart. And give it a couple of years, they'll end up being gone and torn down. So, like, how can we kind of draw people back in? Put some money into it, get people to really appreciate and love these old homes. Even if you go in and you gut the whole thing, like, keep something of it, what I mean? But there's a lot of opportunity if you like historic homes, you like renovating, like, this is a gold mine. Really.
Hey, HGTV, if y'all want to talk to us, let us know, okay? Because we know we got the hookup. We know people who want to rock the block.
I don't know what that means, because we don't know how to fix anything. We're not realtors. We have no skills.
No, but we can introduce them to the people who may want to rock the block. Okay. But I want to say something too. I want to finish answering your question. Coming back, the shock too of everything being so dang nabbit expensive.
Absolutely. So, like, we were in San Miguel, and San Miguel has its own expense to it, right? As far as compared to the rest of Mexico, it's one of the more expensive cities. But it is not anything near America's prices.
Right.
Particularly in the grocery stores, like, just in general, the prices are going to be higher, but also in the current economic, climate, the prices are even higher and higher. And it is just sticker shock.
And our daughter calls it shrinkflation too. So everything is more expensive and the packaging is smaller. Y'all know.
So you go to the store and grab a couple things, you get to the checkout and you spend $50 and you're like, I have one bag of stuff.
4 things.
Why am I spending $50?
Yep.
And it's like, do I even need this stuff anymore? It makes you re-examine what's in your bag.
Re-examine your whole life's mission. Seriously.
And restaurants here seem to be, like, I only have an Ohio reference for right now. Over the past 3 years, I haven't been in a whole lot of other cities to compare prices.
Well, you was in Chicago for a meeting. You've been going back and forth.
I didn't pay for nothing to eat in Chicago.
Oh, that's
pretty
true.
much. Like, if I go on a work trip, I'm not paying for a lot of stuff.
That's true.
Or if I do, I don't care, because I'm going to reimburse it anyway.
Who cares? They pay for it. Right.
So, like, being here, it feels like everything is just expensive for no reason. Like, I want to go get a cheesesteak, and small size is $15. And it's like, why is that $15?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that high.
Yeah.
So, part of that is, yes, I'll come back here, able to make more money now that I'm, pay is always set geographically nowadays. So like I'm in a higher geography in the U.S. versus being in Mexico, so I make literally twice as much money now. But it doesn't feel like it sometimes when you go to the grocery store. Like,
right, because you're gonna pay more.
Your pocket
for
gets
it.
wiped out just to kind of feed your family.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's definitely always a challenge, and that's what ends up making it frustrating. That, well, for me, you know, there's like, okay, you can come back and make more money, but you got to spend more money.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But the fun part, you know, is being able to be closer to family, you know. So, you know, like this past Christmas, we were with all of our children, you know, the boys and our daughter-in-law and the grandbaby, just being able to have that time, you know, and our in-laws, since we did go to the village, you know, just being able to have that, that was really special. We would not have had that had we been in Mexico.
Right.
Mousy would have come.
It would have been more expensive to do.
Well, that part too, yeah. You know, to come and fly up or what have you. Mousy would have come because the brother don't miss a trip, so he would have come, you know, to hang with us for New Year's and Christmas or whatever. But that was just really, that was very special to be here, especially for the baby's first Christmas, and you know, him to be able to enjoy it. You know, he's clapping and smiling and things like that. So that was pretty lovely. That was super lovely, you know.
And the last thing I will close it out with before we wrap up this episode is there is, for me at least, and I think a lot of people feel this way as well, of like there's a release of pressure when you kind of leave Mexico and come to the U.S. because there's no language barrier, right? So
that's what you said. You were like, I ain't have to stop and get my Google Translate out.
Right, I have to Google Translate. I have to like stop and think. And like, can I make the sentence I want to make with the handful of words that I have? Like, I can just kind of be myself and talk. And, you know, there's a big thing that you lose is a piece of your personality when you don't know the language very well.
It's almost like you're just able to be yourself.
Right, like you want to make a joke in the moment, but you don't have the language to make the joke or say it a particular way. So like,
it's like code switching. Like even when you're around black folks or you with the fellas or ladies and we're around just the ladies, there's certain things you can say. You can go into that and be understood. And
certain things you can just make a reference to that everybody knows.
Sometimes it's just a look. Right? Yeah. But to your point, it's like I don't have to do any of that. Like I don't need to flip a switch. I can just be. Right.
And when I'm trying to speak in Spanish, I'm speaking like a toddler most of the time.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I'm not conjugating correctly. I'm not using the right words, the right prepositions, right tense, masculine, feminine.
Yeah.
Like I sound like a child. Like, you want to be able to sound like you at the end of the day. Yeah. And it takes a lot of work in language to be able to get to that point where you can actually express yourself.
Yeah.
So like coming back here, it feels just a lot less pressure if I'm just going to a restaurant or going down the street, or you want to make small talk with somebody. Yeah. Or they make small talk with you and you have to respond. Like I can actually just do it naturally because I've had 46 years of practice. Right. Rather than 3 years of practice. Right. So like there's a lot of things that kind of go on that are different between where we were and where we are. Regardless, we're always trying to move up and outward and forward. And we hope, for those of you making the decision of whether to go to Mexico or whether to come back or any of those things, we're always here to help with that. So I hope some of our experience helps you in your experience. I think we'll wrap it up from there. Yeah.
And I would just say, just keep everybody in prayer, because just the things that are going on, they're just impacting everyone in different ways. And I as comfortable as we were in Mexico, I think my level of discomfort would start to be elevating right now. Yeah. You know what I mean? When you have folks who are in power doing the things that they're doing and making the threats, and without boundaries and without borders, this is like, that's a very uncomfortable place for me mentally. And then when you have the what's it called? The counterparts. So you have other prime ministers, you have other presidents and governors who are like, okay, I will call you such and such, and I'll raise you. Right. So the way he could kick people out, is the way that they could kick us out too, and
Right,
they
they're reflecting
already
his energy,
are.
right? He puts out negative
right?
energy, and they're going to send negative energy.
Yeah, exactly. So how do you do that? You take it out on the people who are there, possibly, right? So I'm just praying for all of those who are around the country, around the globe, who are in some kind of topsy-turvy either mindset or even situation. Because let's be clear, no matter where we are, no matter the zip code, it's going to be challenging, so just pray for peace of mind, and that things get better in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. So if any of this was helpful to you, feel free to leave a like, a comment, subscribe. If you're out there and you have come back to the U.S. after being out of the country for some time, leave us a comment about what were some of the things you were actually thankful for to be back? I know the situation right now may not be the best for everyone, but what were some positives you can kind of pull out of that situation? But as always,
we've missed you guys. Oh no, y'all be well. And if in Spanish is cool, is it cuídate? No, how do you say it?
Cuídate.
Cuídate. That's right, because I used to say cuídate, and then they would laugh at me. Cuídate.
Arias Garcia.
Yeah, but that's what we said when we was in Mexico. But I guess we could just translate it.
It still stands. Cuídate, Arias Garcia. Take care and take
care. Oh, that's right, you did.
It's been so long. We got to catch some folks up. I see we got to do some homework here.
Missed you guys.
Yeah. So we'll see you guys next time. Peace.